Welcome, everyone. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this beautiful Friday, November 22nd, coming to you right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Hope you guys have had a fantastic week. I have had a fantastic week myself. We did some great things at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. We took care of a lot of people. We saw some new patients, had some great conversations, did some workouts. It was a lot of fun. And this Wednesday, I forgot to mention it on last night's show and on Wednesday night's show, but I got a text or an email from Mike Gustafson, who does all the radio for the baseball team, the Texas Tech baseball team, and he's really big into Tech athletics. And Mike sent me a video to remind me, and I didn't really remember it, but he sent me a video to remind me that Wednesday was the 25th anniversary of the last football game that Coach Spike Dykes coached at Texas Tech. That was his final game. We played Oklahoma right here. We beat those guys 38-28. Cliff Kingsbury was our quarterback. Sammy Morris was our tailback. And had a whole group of guys on that team. Kevin Curtis from right here in Lubbock was our free safety. And that was Coach Dykes' last game to coach, and it was also my last game to coach. So they didn't mention that in the video that Gus sent me. They didn't say anything about me being that this was Jason Clemmons' last game to coach college football. But it's kind of interesting for the last couple of days to be thinking about that. Just think about, it's been 25 years since I coached a football game. That season, I have a little memento right here sitting in my office. It's part of the goalpost that we had. This one says October 2nd, 1999, Jones Stadium, Texas Tech 21, Texas A&M 19. The day we tore the goalpost down. So that was part of that 1999 football season that I was fortunate enough to get to spend with Coach Dykes. And so that was my last. I spent 3 years coaching wide receivers at New Mexico State University. And then I coached 3 years at Texas Tech. 97, 98, 99 was on Coach Dykes' staff. My very first football game that I coached in as at New Mexico State, we went to Florida and played Florida in Florida. That was, I think they beat us 70-21 in that game. They had 10 offensive possessions and they scored a touchdown every single time they got the ball. And but we scored 3 touchdowns on them. And then the very next week we got to go out to Arizona and we played Arizona's University of Arizona Wildcats and at New Mexico State, and they had just come off of their tying national championship season, and they had the Desert Swarm out there defense and Teddy Bruschi and all those guys that played at Arizona. And so that welcome to college football coaching. That was that's probably why I'm sitting here with you today, talking about health and wellness. But no, that was some good times at New Mexico State. Learned a lot of stuff. Did some good coaching, and then came back to Tech in 1997. And my very first game that I coached at Texas Tech was at Tennessee versus Peyton Manning. And so I was like, "Whew, man, these first games are killer. We got to figure out a way to change this deal." So, for all you guys out there who are really big, you're really big on, hey, we need to play somebody strong early in the season. I am not with you. I am not one of those guys whatsoever. I just soon play the weakest team we can find and see if we can win a game. And I would do that with all off-season games. I would never play anybody. I would never play anybody close to good. Go play Roswell High or something. see if we could play. We'll take on somebody that we know we can win, because those other games, man, unless you got a 10-year contract, and Coach Dykes did, so he had a 10-year contract, so he was all right at the time. But man, that'll get you fired when you get beat like that. And but those were good times. So you guys that are watching us on social media, I just took a picture. I've got that picture sitting over there behind my desk, and that's for you guys on the radio. I've got a picture of Coach Dykes and I back in the day when I was a player for Coach Dykes. And at the end of our, sometime during 2 days, somebody, some of the boosters or something would show up with watermelon, and we at the end of practice they'd cut up a bunch of watermelon and we'd eat some watermelon. So I was sitting over there next to Coach Dykes, and somebody took a picture of that, and it was in the university daily newspaper, the school newspaper at Texas Tech, and it was Coach Dykes and I eating some watermelon. So fond memories. Love that guy. He was super influential in my life. Made a really big impact in my life. Got to spend 7 years of my life with him, 4 years as a player, 3 years as a coach, and I just can't say enough things about Coach Dykes. So that was happened this week, Wednesday. Wednesday was 25 years since my last college football game that I coached. So good times. Made me think in the last 2 days, what have I done in the last 25 years? And then it made me think, what am I going to do in the next 25 years? So I'm 54, so that'll put me at 79. So between now and the age of 79, I'm going to see if I can get some stuff done. I'm going to see if I can get some stuff done and make a difference in the world, right? And see if we could, Coach Dykes, be proud of us if we did that. So, but this whole idea just kind of took me and kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight. And I found another article today. I was reading, and this one comes out of the Journal of Comorbidity, and the title is confusing, so I'm not going to really get into the title as much, but the Department of Health and Human Services in 2010 strategic framework on multiple chronic conditions called for the identification of common constellations of conditions in older adults. And basically what this article is them going through and analyzing what is common amongst people who do the worst with Medicare. And their whole goal for this whole thing was to see how much, if we could figure out who's using up all the money, maybe we could solve their problems for them, and then they wouldn't spend as much money or use up as much money in the Medicare system. And so this is from the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics, School of Medicine, Case Western Reserve University, Cleveland, Ohio, Department of Sociology, University of Nebraska at Lincoln, Department of Family Medicine, Community Health, School of Medicine, Case Western, Department of Family Medicine, Michigan State University. So it's a whole bunch of people. One of them, George Washington University as well. So there's a bunch of people that put this together, and this is what we're going to go over tonight. But having the theme and having these reminders of my background and these reminders of what life used to be like in my early training, I just thought I would just kind of tie it all in with football season, the 25 years since I coached, all those sort of things, and just kind of take this article, and we're going to break it down kind of like a football coach would break it down. And we're going to see if we can take this information and then extrapolate from this information what we need to win the game. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. And so we're just going to get after it. We're going to get started because we got a lot to cover. And I hope this will probably be fun. It's going to be fun for me. And so I hope it will end up being fun for you guys too. So I'm just going to start off and talk about I'm going to talk about it from a football coach's standpoint, and I'm going to talk about it from a chiropractor standpoint and a health and wellness doctor standpoint. And then we're going to break down this whole article, and we're going to break it down just like we would if we were breaking down Tennessee and Peyton Manning, or just like we were breaking down the old Aggies from back in the day, right? And we're going to say, hey, what is it? What do we need to win the game? And what do we need to win the game of life? What do we need to win the game of health? And how would we do it in football? And so I drew up for you guys on the radio. I drew up an old formation, a football formation, and our base defense that we played at Texas Tech in 1999. Now, you got to give me some slack here because football changed. Coach Leach changed everything. Now that they've got run pass options and they got a bunch of wide receivers and they got a bunch of stuff out there, then it's not exactly the same as it was in 1999. But in 1998, we were number 8 in the country in defense. So this 98-99 group was pretty good overall. We did our record always, we're 6-5 like normal. I think we were 7-5. We were 7-4 in 1998, and then 6-5 in 1999. And Coach retired. We didn't go to a bowl game, so we had an opportunity. We could have been 7-5, but when we would look at breaking down an offense, and we would actually start to really study it, and we would say, okay, look, how are we going to play? And we would put this in. This is the defense that helped Zach Thomas become a 2-time All-American at Texas Tech. Like, Zach Thomas played the Mike linebacker position, and he was the team captain and all that sort of thing. And so when you get ready to take on somebody, if you're a defensive coach in college and you get ready to try to break down the Aggies, right? But so you can tear down your goalpost, you got to keep the Aggies to 19 points, right? If you're going to do that, you got to take their base formation and you got to say, what is their base formation? And then how are we going to play it? What are we going to do to stop it? And at Texas Tech, one of the things that we knew is that, look, we may not be able to recruit some of the people that they recruited Alabama or Michigan or Tennessee or, even Nebraska or Oklahoma or Texas. So we're going to have to get an advantage with numbers. And so what we did is we put together, Coach Goodner put together and his staff, I just got there at the end of it, but we put together a numbers game, and we looked at it and we said, look, how can we overload the front? Because what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to stop the run first. We're going to stop the run first, and then we're going to play the pass second, and we're going to play the pass in a certain particular way that's going to make them it's going to make the other team try to throw the ball in the most difficult place to throw and catch it. And if they can throw it and catch it in the most difficult place, which would be outside on the boundary on both sides, we're going to try to take everything else away, but we're going to start by stopping the run. And when you stop the run, again, in an offense and defense setting, you stop the run by filling the gaps. You got to get your guy into a gap. So these guys right here, these defensive tackles are the ones that I coached. I coached for 97 and 98, I coached those two guys right there. And we had certain calls that we would put these guys in those gaps. And we could call one defense where my tackle, we called this a 3 technique, and he would be in the B gap. And then my nose, we call this a 1 technique, and he would be in the A gap. And these were the gaps that they were assigned to, and they needed to be in that gap, so you can't run the ball right there. Our defensive ends played on the inside, and they took the C gaps. Our Sam linebacker would step up on the outside, and he would play the D gap. Then our defensive end on the other side played that C gap. Our Raider, which was our weak side safety, which you guys have heard, a 4-3 defense. Well, this was a safety. Well, we would walk that safety down, and we called him a Raider. We'd stack him right there on the end, and then he would slow play that, and he would take that gap. And the key to it all, which nobody knows except for us, the key to it all is on a strong side run, what we would have to, the will linebacker would have to get across the center's face in order for him to fill that A gap on that other side. If the will linebacker got blocked, then we had 1, 2, 3, 4. we had four defenders, and they had 1, 2, 3, 4 blockers and a ball carrier, they win. So if we don't get that will linebacker across that center's face, then we're outnumbered. And we don't have an 8-man front. We got 4 guys over here and 4 guys over here, but it doesn't make any difference because we got 4 guys over here and they only have 3 blockers. So they're not going to run over there. So the will linebacker was the key in our defense. The will linebacker was the one that had to cross that center's face. And if he did, if that center come out here and tried to block him and the will linebacker could get across his face, now we got him outnumbered. Now we got a free guy right here. That's Zach. Zach's free. No one's blocking him, and he doesn't have a gap responsibility until he sees that running back, and now he can go fill up in there to wherever that fullback is going, and then we've got him covered. If they throw the ball, then we're going to play the run first, and then we're going to play man-to-man on the outside. Our corners are going to play man-to-man, and they're going to play it from an inside technique. So this corner is going to be over here on the inside shade, and he's going to take away a post. This corner is going to be on an inside shade. He's going to take away the post, and now they're going to have to throw the ball deep and on the outside, and then we're going to combo cover this guy. We're going to combo with these guys, and then this Raider is going to read, and he's going to play underneath this corner over here. So we're basically going to double team. We got 2 guys looking on that receiver. These 3 guys are going to play those 2 guys, so someone's going to get doubled, but we're going to stop the run. And that was our defense in 1998 and 99. Well, it was our defense from 94, I think, when Coach Goodner got there and started implementing all that. That's why Zach in 94, 95, 96 was All-American, right? Now, why would I tell you all that stuff? why would I open this show tonight on this Friday night, breaking down the front and where everybody fit? Because what it did was it trained me. First of all, I played quarterback for 16 years. So, and then these last 3 years, it trained me. It's like, look, we can take away. You know, one thing Coach Goodner used to always do when he would go speak at seminars, he'd speak at the Lubbock Football Clinic, and he would speak at the Angelo Football Clinic, or anytime coaches came to Lubbock and they talked, other college coaches came to Lubbock or whatever, Coach Goodner said it all the time. I heard him say it all the time. He's like, we dropped that Raider down on that weak side. We got 4 guys on the weak side, and you got 3 blockers. We don't get weak side runs. People don't try to run the ball on our weak side because we got 4 people over there. He pre-framed it. He pre-framed that. I heard him do it, I don't know, in 3 years, I heard him do it 100 times probably. He pre-framed it, and he said, look, we don't get weak side runs because we got them outnumbered. He would go tell the world that. He would go tell all the other coaches that. And that was true. When we mapped out what we did at the end of the year, we didn't get any weak side runs. But we lined up before the ball was snapped in a way that you're not going to run the ball on the weak side because we got you outnumbered. But that will linebacker has to get back over. He's got to be able to cross the center's face and get into that A gap, and he's also got to stay behind the center on a weak side run. He's got to stay on the weak side. So we could take away, we basically could eliminate a part of the field that you weren't going to run the ball on. So we knew that you weren't going to run the ball on the weak side because we had too many people. So if you're going to run the ball, you're going to run it on the strong side. Well, we're already ready for you to run it on the strong side. And then we just play the pass off of that. Now, like I said, things have changed since then. And obviously, you have to adapt to the changing times, right? But as I was reading this article today, I was thinking about this whole thing, and I was thinking about this 25 years of coaching, and I was thinking about all the things that we used to do, and I started reading this. I started reading this article, Thanks, Lewis. He was a good guy. He was a good coach too. Yes. Um, I started reading this article and I started thinking about, man, we could break this down and we could get ahead of the game. And so that's what I want to do as we go through this article. And you're not going to be able to read it too much, but I just wanted to show it to you because it says multi-morbidity, constellations of conditions across subgroups of midlife and older individuals and related Medicare expenditures. This comes from the Journal of Comorbidity, 2017, looks like volume 7, number 1, 33 through 43 is the page number. Okay, so I just want to break it down. I want to break it down, and then I want to see how we can beat this article. Okay, so it says in 2011, nearly 2/3 of Medicare fee-for-service beneficiaries had 2 or more chronic conditions, and 15% presented with 6 or more chronic conditions. So they're talking about the people who use Medicare. The people that use Medicare, they're saying 2/3 of Medicare fee-for-service beneficiaries had 2 or more chronic conditions, and 15% presented with 6 or more chronic conditions. In addition, the average annual Medicare expenditure for beneficiaries with 6 or more chronic conditions was approximately threefold that of beneficiaries with 4 or 5 conditions. So it went from $31,000 versus $11,000. So if you were a Medicare person and you had, and listen, if you're young, don't turn the show off because you're going to want to know this. But if you're a Medicare person and you have 6 or more chronic conditions, you're threefold more likely to use your benefits than if you had 4 or 5 conditions. So just eliminating 2 of these things, and I'll get into what they mean, but just eliminating 2 of them took the expenditures down from $31,000 to $11,000. So I started thinking about that. I was like, man, what is this? Let's keep going. So there was a study done in 1995 that showed that some of these problems right here, the co-occurrences of multiple chronic conditions with functional limitations and geriatric syndromes has been well documented. So that's what they're doing. This 1995 study showed that decreased upper extremity impairment, decreased lower body impairment, sensory impairment, and affective impairment were predisposing factors for incontinence, falls, and functional dependence. Moreover, cognitive impairment has been shown to be associated with disability. So I looked at this and I thought, decreased upper extremity impairment, decreased lower body impairment, sensory impairment, affective impairment were predisposing factors for incontinence, falls, and functional dependence. Well, we got things in our office that address all of those things. Like people that come into our office get adjusted, they get their brain worked on, they go across the hall with Brooke, they can go back in the back and walk on the treadmill. We've got all kinds of exercise that could address decreased upper extremity impairment, decreased lower body impairment, sensory impairment, all of that stuff, right? It says here, moreover, yeah, I read that. Extending the intricate association between geriatric syndromes and functional dependence of what a chronic condition, Martinez et al. Demonstrated that both chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and mild cognitive impairment increase the risk of disability. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So when we do shows and we talk about omega-6 fatty acids and we talk about seed oils and we talk about sleep and we talk about exercise, all of those things that we're talking about are designed to decrease your possibility or your probability of getting pulmonary artery disease, right? Like we don't want or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Like your lungs are bad, and so your cardiovascular system is not functioning properly. And so what did we talk about multiple times this week? We talked about the omega-6 content of seed oils or sunflower oil or corn oil or those things that we absorb that makes us have cardiovascular disease. So we can win the game. This is one of those statements right here where we can win the game by lining up before we even start the game by outnumbering them. So let's keep going. So building on the above line of inquiry, we have adopted a more encompassing definition of multimorbidity. This is what they're calling it. Do you have comorbidities? Do you have problems that are considered to be things that if you added them up together, those problems would put you in a category that would mean that you would probably spend a lot of the Medicare money that's out there. You would use your Medicare dollars more and you would spend more money on your health with your health insurance if you had these problems. And that's what they're calling multiple morbidities. By accounting for functional limitations in geriatric syndromes, rather than chronic conditions alone, thus drawing a clear distinction between multimorbidities and multiple chronic conditions. We have shown, hang on. And sometimes I get caught up and I just miss that break. So we got to take a break. You guys stick around with us. We'll get through this article on the second half of the show, and we'll be right back right after these messages. Yeah, we'll take a break with the radio people, and then we'll get back into it. We'll get back to some football since we're on commercial break. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good defense right there. So, and that was based on a 4-man rush. You got 1, 2, 3 guys, 4 guys, and then we just lined up that same exact way, and we could do that no matter what the formation was. We just moved our people around, right? And it was the same exact. So, whoops. This is like a 3-minute coaching video right here. But if they split that guy out and then they took that tight end and put 3 wide receivers, then we still would play it the same way. We would have the end, tackle, the nose, the end, the Raider would be sitting there, the Will linebacker, the Mike. Now the Sam would have to walk out here, corner would play that, free safety would be there, and the corner would play that. And that would be the same. That's the same exact defense versus 3 wide receivers. And so you still play the double team here and combo here. You got one-on-one outside and one-on-one outside. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We still got a free guy. So we're going to stop the run first. And then we're going to play underneath it. So the Raider would just wait. Corner was going to play over the top, and then the Raider would play underneath the curl route. Sam would look for number 1 to go deep. Then he's got him. If one goes inside, if one goes out, Sam's got him. If one goes deeper inside, the free safety's got him. And then Sam's going to play underneath the corner. Same combination. We did it exactly the same way. Then if they take this guy, put him out here, and run doubles against us, now the Raider walks out, and now we still got 4. We got 6 guys versus 5 blockers, and we're still in good shape right there. So, okay, that's all the football I got for you tonight, I think. At least that's all the diagrams. But anybody ever want to come and sit down and diagram football with me, I would love to do that. Okay, everybody, we're back. We're breaking down an article tonight. We're trying to get into some football philosophy as far as our health and wellness, right? So we're going back to the article. We have shown that co-occurrence of functional We have shown that co-occurrence of functional limitation and geriatric syndromes with chronic conditions is highly prevalent in older adults and has cumulative effects relative to health outcomes. So what that means to me is, okay, can I get rid of these chronic conditions? The functional limitations. Can I help you improve your functional limitations? Can I help you improve your leg strength, your arm strength, your balance? Yes, we can do those things, right? Can we help you with your chronic conditions? Yes, we can do that too. So, man, Health and Human Services should hire the Rock Health and Wellness Center to help serve the people because we can help you. But if you're out there, I want to keep going because if you're out there and you want to know what this means, I want you to know what it means. Thus reflecting greater than the birth. Such an encompassing approach is all the more relevant with the aging of the population, given that the findings will guide future developments in clinical care, research methodology, and health policy. Yeah, the findings of clinical care, that's what we do. This is best reflected through the Department of Health and Human Services 2010 Strategic Framework on Multiple Chronic Conditions, which calls for studies to understand the epidemiology of multiple chronic conditions. Understand where multiple chronic conditions come from. Multiple chronic conditions come from physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. That's where they come from. And if you can control your physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress, you can control your chronic conditions. Because remember what Dr. Chestnut said, there's no chronic condition. There's nowhere in the literature, anywhere, there's no scientific backing, there's no concept that human beings are designed for chronic disease. There is not a gene of diabetes. There's not a gene of heart disease. There's not a gene of cancer. There's these chronic conditions that we have are self-made a lot of times. We had a sheriff, bless his heart, and everything he's a great guy, and it's a tragedy what happened to him, and I'm really sad that it happened and all that sort of thing. But I talked to two different people that went to his funeral, and he's 50-something, 51 or 2 years old, and they said he just died of a massive heart attack. He was fine, and then he just died. And I know that you know, if you're listening to this show, that's not true. He didn't just die of a massive heart attack. He had some of these things that we're talking about. I bet you he had a high 6-3 ratio. I bet you he had some trouble controlling his insulin. I bet you he was not getting the sleep that he was supposed to get. I bet you if we went through all of those things, right, that was the cause. You don't just die of a heart attack. You're not perfectly healthy when you wake up in the morning and die of a heart attack that afternoon. That's not how it works. Your body is trying to adapt. It's trying to adapt. It's trying to adapt to an environment that's incongruent with health. And then it loses its ability to adapt. And then you get chronic disease, which is now going to either kill you this afternoon or it's going to kill you 20 years from now. And you're just going to live with the chronic disease and deteriorate between now and then for the rest of the time. So we can defend that a little bit, is what I'm trying to get at tonight. So number one, understand the epidemiology of multiple chronic conditions. Number two, the constellations of conditions that are most prevalent and the most important in terms of disability among individuals. Yeah, which ones are the most prevalent? Diabetes, heart disease? What are the things that are the most prevalent in our society? Arthritis, hypertension? What can we do to deal with those things? And then the last point is this document further calls for additional research identifying the most common patterns of these problems, which can help in targeting specific interventions for specific subgroups and monitoring the impact of those interventions. Yeah, specific interventions. That's what we do every night, right? We specifically, with each one of you people, that are listening to this show or watching this show, for every individual, not each one of you people like that, but each individual, we're saying, look, we're going to target what your problem is, and then we're going to address your problem, right? So then they went on with their some of the other things, and they got into some of the objectives. The objective of the study was to analyze patterns of these multi morbidities and expenditures in the U.S. representative sample of midlife and older adults. So they're talking about people from 50 to 64 and people who are older than 65. That's their group that they're talking about. And so their method, they just broke down all the data, and they have all the data. So they got in there. They looked at a representative sample of adults aged 50 years or older. To date, approximately 30,000 older adults have been surveyed by the HRS, whatever that is. So they went through. The study population was 18,005 individuals surveyed in 2010. So what were they looking for? What are they considering? What are they considering some of these variables of multimorbidity? Same way we would look for how we're going to break down Tennessee. I broke down 11 football games of Peyton Manning. When I got to Tech, I got there in January. They were fixing to go play Iowa in the Alamo Dome or Alamo Bowl, and Tim Dwight, I think, and those guys. And so this was the end of the 1996 football season, and we were going to open the next season with Tennessee. So in the spring, we got the film. And I broke down 11 football games of Peyton Manning from his junior year. I broke down the entire season of those games. I went through every play of every game and mapped it out on paper and got it ready for Coach Goodner and the staff. And that was my job. And I broke down 11 games just like this, the exact same thing, right? These people are saying, look, the more multiple or multi-morbidities you have, the more dangerous it is for you, the less health you're going to have, and the more you're going to cost. So this is what they're doing. What are these things? Okay, self-reported chronic conditions. Possible total count of 8, indicating whether the individual was ever told by a physician or that he or she had, number 1, hypertension, arthritis, heart disease, lung disease, non-skin cancer, stroke, diabetes, and psychiatric conditions. So that's where they started right there. Then some of the functional limitations were upper body limitations. Example, difficulty picking up a coin from the floor or reaching overhead. Lower body limitations, difficulty climbing stairs or walking around the block. Strength limitations, the ability to lift 4.5 kilograms or difficulty in moving a large object. Limitations in activities of daily living, example, crossing a room, dressing, bathing. And limitations in instrumental activity of daily living, the ability to prepare meals or manage money. And then they used the third thing was the geriatric syndromes. So we got chronic conditions, we got functional limitations, and we got geriatric syndromes. Possible count of 7, poor cognitive function. And if we did a cognitive function test, depressive symptoms. If you answered yes to at least 4 of the 8 items on the Center for Epidemiologically Studied Depression. Visual impairment, hearing impairment, often experience severe pain, incontinence, and dizziness. Now, to this point, we can help a little bit with vision impairment, but not a lot. But we do have some things that we can do to help with vision impairment. Hearing impairment, I haven't figured that one out yet. I don't think that I would say that I can really help anybody that's got hearing impairment. That would not be something we could do in the office. Often experience severe pain. Now, we can help with that. Incontinence, sometimes. incontinence is the number one reason you lose your independence when you get old is incontinence. So sometimes we can help with that. That if the brain to the lower body is not functioning properly, then you could lose incontinence. And so if there's a brain or nervous system involvement, then we can help with that. And then dizziness, shoot, I had this was the craziest week of dizziness maybe that I can ever remember. I had another one today, and I already told you guys about the 3, 4 that I already had this week. So, um, and I checked on 3 out of 4 of those. The one I have today, I'll check on after the show. But the 3 out of 4 of those people with vertigo, dizziness, all that sort of thing, like they're all reporting that they're good. They did well with the treatment. They did well with what we were trying to get done with them, right? So from a coach standpoint, if I look in here and I say, okay, what are you guys going to measure? You're going to measure hypertension, arthritis. Arthritis we can beat. Heart disease we can beat. Lung disease probably we can beat. Non-skin cancer we can sure help out with. Stroke we can sure help out with. Diabetes we definitely can beat. And psychiatric conditions we can definitely improve those things. And what do I mean by I can help with diabetes? Like, I mean that like we're going to line up and outnumber them. We know all of their tricks. How do you think we got this deal? Let me ask you guys something. You guys ever follow any Texas Tech football recruiting versus Texas A&M? The Aggies, do you know how much money the Aggies have? They got more money than anybody in the country. There's 100-something thousand people. Kyle Field is like a cathedral of football. Like the Aggies got more money, and they got the first picks of when in the 1990s. They got the first pick of everybody. Them in Texas got the first pick of every best football player in the whole state of Texas. Our starting Raider our starting Raider was the national goat roping champion. I think it was like. We had people on our defense. We had 85 kids. We had 85 kids on scholarship. We had 4 kids that got an offer from A&M, Texas, or Oklahoma. Think about that for a second. We had 81 of our kids that Texas didn't want, A&M didn't want, Oklahoma didn't want. And I got a piece of the goalpost right here. I got a piece of the goalpost right here from the day we beat the Aggies. They were number 5 in the country, and the week before we had just lost to Texas, to North Texas, and then the next week we beat the Aggies, and they tear the goalpost down, carry it up the stadium at Jones Stadium, take it all the way across campus, and dump it into the fountain over there. Yeah, and then they said, what are we going to do with that goalpost? They said, well, we should cut it up and sell these things for, I don't know, $5 or whatever they sold them for. And then as coaches, we all got a piece of that right there. How in the world? And we beat Texas A&M 2 out of the 3 years, and I think it was like 6 out of 8 years we beat those guys. Coach Gunner's defense. How in the world can you take the national goat roping champion and a bunch of guys, 81 guys that A&M and Texas didn't even want, and beat those guys? Beat the premier number 1 guys in the state. The best offensive linemen, the best defensive linemen, the fastest wide receivers. They had guys in the NFL and all kinds of stuff. How could you beat them? You know how you could beat them? It's because you could break them down. You could break down everything that they did. Coach Goodner had notebook after notebook. He had a 1998, 97, 96, 95, 94 notebook on A&M. He knew all the plays they were going to run before they ran them. On the down and distance, 1st and 10, 2nd and long, 2nd medium, 2nd and short, 3rd and long, 3rd and medium, 3rd and short, all of them. First play after a change of possession, we had all that stuff broken down. Right? We had all that stuff broken down, and that's why people like Zach Thomas were All-Americans, because he knew where the ball was going to go before the ball was snapped. What do you mean you're gonna tell me that hypertension, arthritis, heart disease, lung disease, non-skin cancer, stroke, diabetes, psychiatric conditions. You think psychiatric conditions scare me any more than Texas A&M did? You think they scared us more than Peyton Manning did? We didn't beat Peyton Manning, but at least we knew what he was going to do. We just couldn't. They out-athleted us. But we had a game plan. We picked off the first pass, I think, or the first series, got an interception. And after that was it wasn't that great. But it was against A&M, right? And we beat Texas 2 out of 3 years. And we beat Oklahoma in that last game in 99. All those guys had better players than we did, supposedly. I don't know if they did or not, but they weren't better coached. And I'm telling you that your diabetes is beatable. And I could show you all of the breakdown of how you could line up and beat it. You control your insulin, and you control your 6-3 ratio. Heart disease, arthritis, are you kidding me? Arthritis is beatable. Get your 6-3 ratio under control and move your body, and you'll beat your arthritis, right? Functional problems, difficulty picking up coins from the floor. I bet you my 70 and 81-year-old man that does CrossFit workouts in here in my gym, he picks up coins off the floor. He picks up pecans out of his yard. He's 81 years old, right? He's not suffering from he's behind because I didn't get him when he was 30, right? Because I was 3 or whatever. But yes, we can help. We can help with upper body limitations. We can help with lower body limitations, difficulty climbing stairs or walking around the block. We've got a treadmill back here that you could come get on that treadmill and you can walk and you're not going to fall because it's got a cage around you and it'll take 80% of your body weight off of you. You see what I'm saying? It's like, come on, your chronic disease and your functional breakdown. It's the same thing. You think I'm scared of the Aggies? Wasn't scared of the Aggies. I was sitting there breaking down the Aggies thinking, bring y'all self on over here, Cletus. That's what I was thought when I was coaching these boys. Like, we weren't scared to play Texas. They beat the crap out of us in 99, but we beat them in 98 and 97. And we weren't scared to play them because we knew what they were going to do. And we had a game plan. And we knew that we had a shot. And it was like, man, we were so prepared that we were ready for it. We're not going to be tricked by climbing stairs and walking around the block or strength limitations. You can't lift 4.5 kilograms or difficulty moving a large object. You can if your nervous system's functioning properly. You can if you've got the right nutrition, you got the right fuel in your body, you got the right sleep last night. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get all fired up about this. The Aggies got me all fired up. It's like, it makes me sick watching the Colorado Buffaloes come in here last week and do not have the best football team that we've seen. They don't have the best football players that we've seen, but they believe that they can win, so they win. And we just let them win. It makes me ill. It's like, I know and it reminds me I'm supposed to be calm and loving the Lord with all my heart, but sometimes I get fired up about this stuff, right? Cognitive function. We can help your cognitive function. Depressive symptoms? What in the heck? Are you kidding me? Depressive symptoms? What's depression? What is depression? What is depression? You know it. I know every one of you know it. Depression is it's overactivity of the right hemisphere, and anxiety and depression is either overactivity of the right hemisphere or underactivity of the left hemisphere. Period. That's it. Period. If you've got anxiety or depression, you've got already, I could tell you how you're going to line up. You're going to line up with overactivity of your right hemisphere, or you're going to line up with underactivity of your left hemisphere. So before you even tell me anything else, I've already know how you got 2 options that you're going to line up in. So I'm going to coach my defense to say, look, they're going to come out in one of 2 things. They're going to come out in this, or they're going to come out in this, and we got a game plan for both of those things. You're not going to get that from anybody else. No one's going to break that down for you. They're going to tell you that you got some sort of chemical imbalance. They're going to tell you that life is hard and all this stuff. They're not going to tell you get on your feet, but if you get on your feet, you get rid of your depressive symptoms, and you increase your leg strength at the same exact time, and you start getting rid of your arthritis, your heart disease, your lung disease, your stroke, your diabetes by getting on your feet and moving your feet. Right? Whew. Yeah, that's right. Here's the results. Think about this for a second. I'll calm down. Sorry. Only 15.6% of study participants presented with no or only one condition. Out of the 17,912 people, 15% of them presented with no or one condition, and 22.3% presented with two or three conditions. So there's 37%, 37.9% right there. The remaining 62% of the population presented with at least four conditions, including 11% with 10 or more conditions. So out of the 1,790, we got like about 17,912 people. 11% of them showed up with 10 or more of these conditions. So we've got 1,800 people, almost 1,900 people that have 10 or more conditions. The higher count of the conditions was observed among the older and younger individuals. For example, 7.4% of individuals aged 50 to 64 presented with 10 or more conditions, compared with 31% of those aged over 85. Well, of course. Similarly, high counts were observed among women than among men, among those with lower income and or education attainment than among those with higher income or education attainment, and among those on Medicaid or duly eligible Medicaid or Medicaid beneficiaries. Yeah, that's part of the reason I love this show, and it's part of the reason I love this 98.7 Walk by Faith show, is because it's reaching some of the people who don't have some of the educational means in our community. And what the Facebook thing does is it shows it across the whole world. So now it's like, dude, it doesn't make any difference where you live or how much money you got, because you know how to balance your 6:3 ratio and you know how to control your insulin level. So it doesn't matter how much money you got. You can do those things. You can get ahead of this whole thing. You can take yourself out. How does one guy at Colorado show up when Colorado sucked for the last 10 years? How does one guy show up and all of a sudden the whole United States is interested in Colorado football? One guy showed up. One guy believed that look, I'm a winner. I don't care where I go. I'm a winner. And the same thing can happen with you. You could be the one person, no matter where you are or where you come from or where you've been or whether or not you were magna cum laude or you were C student. It doesn't make any difference whether or not your mom and daddy owned the bank or your mom and daddy worked at the factory. It doesn't make any difference. My daddy was a horse trainer. Like, who cares? I lived in a double wide mobile home when I was growing up. I cleaned stalls and hauled hay and all that stuff. No, I don't care. I don't care about the silver spoon stuff. I don't care about the silver spoon stuff. Line up. It's like line up and play. And line up and play for yourself, right? I got to get going. I'm going to run out of time. Among individuals aged 50 to 64, the most common condition was hypertension. The most common combination was limitations in lower body function and strength limitations. For triads, when you put three of them together, it was hypertension, limitation in lower body function, and strength limitations. The most common four of them together was hypertension, arthritis, limitations in the lower body function, and strength limitations. So you can, the whole point of the story is that you can solve those problems for yourself, and you can take yourself out of the categories of the most sick people in America. You can say, look, I will get my hypertension under control, my arthritis under control, which don't let arthritis fool you. These people, don't let them fool you on that. That's why I am so particular about that word. Don't let them fool you. It's functional. Arthritis is functional. It's not structural. You cannot see it on an x-ray. It's functional. It's about the inflammation in the joint. It's not about the structure of the joint. That's a true statement. As much as anything else that I know is true, right? For example, 72.3% of adults aged older 65 had hypertension compared with 50% of those in the younger age group, whether or not hypertension co-occurred with any other conditions. Similarly, 25% of the individuals aged older 65 presented with 5 things: hypertension, arthritis, limitation in upper body function, limitation in lower body function, and strength limitations. So, increase your strength, lift your weights, get your balance back, keep your nervous system functioning better, and you too can beat the Aggies. I got to get that thing right. Yes, you too can beat the Aggies. So, man, that was intense. That was way more intense than I thought it was going to be. But it was fun, and it was a fun Friday night. If I could do anything for you, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday, and maybe we'll do some more coaching or something like that. So you guys have a great weekend.